Hi everyone, and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel and the fourth video in my 2017 December daily video series. Today I'm going to be sharing my reason why introduction page as well as day 2 in my album with you. Starting with my reason why page, I've already printed out my journaling or my reason why, and so I'm just going to use my trimmer to trim that down. I knew that I wanted to layer some different papers behind it, so I'm just trimming that down a little bit smaller, making sure with my page protector as a guide that it would fit. I did already have an idea of how I wanted this page to turn out, so I'm going to try my original idea and see how it turns out. I'm taking one of my Ali Edwards stamp sets and I'm going to be using one of the little stamps that says the reason why, and I'm going to be creating a background on that craft cardstock using that stamp. First of all, I'm going to use my EK Success powder tool to remove some of the static, so hopefully I don't have as much excess embossing powder sticking to my page. So I'm just going to dab that and smoosh that all over the page, and then using the reason why stamp, I'm going to just stamp it haphazardly all over the entire craft cardstock sheet, and then I'm going to use my iridescent embossing powder to just coat that, and then using my heat tool set that to dry. I did find with the embossing powder that I was using, I needed to use a few extra coats to make it even. The embossing was quite patchy and the powder's quite thin, so what I did is just made sure that I went over every edge of the cardstock, and once I then used my heat tool, it dried perfectly fine. I decided at this point that the page was looking a little bit too neutral and I needed to add some colour, so I'm going to be taking this cranberry coloured cardstock and using some double-sided sticky tape, I'm just going to back that behind my journaling. I'm going to cut it pretty close, there's not going to be too much, as I just wanted a little bit of an accent. After trimming that down, I decided I also wanted to add some colour to my background, so I'm going to be deciding between this wood grain paper and a leather effect paper. I go with the leather effect paper as I love the colour. It's a very deep dark red and I think it just was so festive and a pretty colour. So again, using more double-sided sticky tape, I'm just going to stick my embossed piece of cardstock on top of that, and I'm going to apply quite a bit of pressure as I did have a bit of warping where I'd use my heat tool after embossing. I'm then going to stick down my journaling into its place and then move on to the fun part, which is embellishing. I have these stars from Studio Calico and I wanted to use a few of them, so I'm going to spread them across the page. I think I used 3, and these will form my mini embellishment clusters, which I'm going to layer up some other embellishments with. I'm using just some normal tacky glue and my fine liner bottle to adhere these, but they did take quite a while to dry. I think it was because of the embossing powder that was underneath them. So after gluing those down, I'm going to start working on the next part of this page. As I said, I did have an idea before I started this page, so I'm going to be trimming my vellum down to 6x8, and then I'm going to start piecing together that page. I'd been watching Ali Edwards' tutorial where she used a tip-in, and so I'm going to have my own attempt at one of those. So now I'm taking this red foil washi tape which I received in my package from Susan, and I did make a little bit of a boo-boo as I didn't realise there was white tape on the top that had to be peeled off, and I ended up tearing it a little bit, but I do just cover over the top with another little piece. And then once I've trimmed off the ends, I'm going to try the idea that I had in my head out and see how it works on top of the vellum. I wanted to take one of these wooden and felt trees along with 2 of the other little trees that came in the little wooden tree pack, and I do swap these out for some of the green and white polka dot ones, but I'm just going to try it with these ones, and then I believe I put them in like a horizontal line down. These little trees did have adhesive backing, so it's just a case of peel and stick those on. I did have quite a bit of trouble adhering the felt tree, I do use my liquid glue and my fine liner bottle at first, but I do end up having to staple them on as it just kept lifting from the vellum and wouldn't stick. So once I've stapled that on for a little bit of extra security, I'm just going to check it over the top of my reason why page. I'm then going to use a piece of washi tape as a guideline, otherwise I end up sticking my alphas on super wonky. And then I'm just going to spell out the reason why in these plain black Studio Calico alphas. I'm then going to take the other tree in that pack and I'm just going to fussy cut it out in patterned paper to stick on the back of that tree. I didn't like the way you could see all of the glue and staples I'd used, so I'm just going to cut out another one in pattern paper and layer that over the top. Once I've cut out that tree, I'm just going to take some more double-sided sticky tape and I'm going to use that to stick the tree onto the back of the vellum. I find that double-sided sticky tape is the best adhesive for vellum as I get a better hold and I don't tend to slip and slide everywhere like I do when I use liquid glue. I'm going to use some more of the foil washi, this time in green, on the back of where I'd used the red, and that part of the page is then done. Next, I'm moving on to those little embellishment clusters that I talked about earlier. I'm taking some of these star sequins in the copper and silver from my Studio Calico kit and just using a little bit of glue, I'm going to place those in the little clusters where I've put the wooden stars. I'm then going to add some of those star sequins as well on the back of these trees on the other side of the vellum. They kind of look like little baubles and it was a great way of embellishing those without having to add extra trees. I'm then taking these mini red sequins again from Studio Calico and I'm just placing those like baubles also on the trees on the front of the vellum page. I'm then going to take those red sequins as well and add them as the third little embellishment in these clusters. And that's going to be my reason why page finished. I do adhere the vellum page on top of the reason why page and I do that off camera, which I will show you at the end in the photos. We're now moving on to the day 2 in my December daily album, which is actually celebrating a birthday, and I was really excited to be able to use my December daily in Christmas supplies for something other than Christmas. It was a challenge, but it was a lot of fun and I got to use a lot of pink. For this page, I decided to do something a little bit different for me. I'm using a page protector which has 4 3x4 pockets on it, which is definitely not something I would normally use. So I've made a collage with 2 tiny photos that I have and I've layered them together and I'm going to create a little tiny 3x4 card from some of my Snow and Cocoa goodies as well as the cut apart sheet from the Fa La La collection. So on the cut apart sheet it has this really adorable little card which has 2 snowmen on a pink background, and I didn't really necessarily want to use the snowman. We don't get a lot of snow here, so I decided I was going to use the pink piece to my advantage and I'm just going to trim that out and then use it as a 3x4 card. I did want to use something from the Snow and Cocoa collection, but I couldn't find any little pieces I really thought fit well with her birthday. So I'm using 2 of these really pretty pink chipboard hearts from the Crepe Paper Fa La La chipboard sheet. I did think originally I was going to be using one of these little homemade tags I'd stamped with one of my stamps, but I just couldn't get it to work on the photo and I didn't want to cover up too much of the photo as it told quite a bit of the story. So I just decided to go with these 2 little pink hearts, and again just using normal liquid glue I stick them onto the gold frame and then that card goes in the pocket. Now I'm going to move on to creating a journaling card. I knew that I wanted to be able to write about her little birthday celebration, so I'm going to take a scrap of white cardstock and the scraps from that pink cut apart, and I'm going to stick them all together on the top and then use those black Studio Calico alphas to spell out her name. I knew I wouldn't be able to spell out Lily May, so I just decided to put Lily, and that's where you'll see I make a mistake with my placement and end up with no gap at one end and a huge gap at the other, but I will try and fix it. So after spelling out all of her name, I wanted to find a little embellishment, so I'm going back to the Fa La La collection and I'm just going to find a cute little heart sticker that I'm going to place right next to her name. I wanted to keep it relatively simple, so I'm then going to take my normal black biro pen and just journal about what we did to celebrate, where we were, and the fact that it was very pink. Moving on to the next bottom pocket, I'm going to be taking my 2-inch hole punch and I'm going to be just popping out some white cardstock circles. I'm then after that going to go through my Fa La La paper pad and I'm going to punch out a few of the circles in different pink papers from the collection, and then I'm going to just stick those over the top of the cardstock circles. Once I'd stuck all the circles together, I wanted to arrange them into the pocket in a way that I would be able to see through them a little bit. I knew that I wanted to create a shaker pocket with my sequins, so I'm going to arrange them in a little bit of a zigzag and then use my stapler to staple them in place. I'm then going to take these candy cane alphas and the number 2 from them and place that on the bottom circle. It doesn't stand out very well against the confetti paper, so I'm going to take my black biro pen and outline them. I'm not really sure on it, but I decided to put it in the pocket anyway and create the shaker pocket and then see how I felt. So I'm just going to place that in the pocket along with the Studio Calico sequins in the gold and copper stars. And then I'm going to use lots of sequins from this little dish that's in front of me in the pink and red colour. I add just a few extra of the Studio Calico stars in silver, and that's that pocket done. I will use my fuse tool to seal it once I'm off camera, but I decided to just carry on with the other pocket rather than waiting for that to heat up. I'm going back to the Fa La La cut apart sheet and I find this card that says happy, I think it says happy ho 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 to you. And my niece absolutely loves Christmas as well as her birthday, so I decided that that's the perfect card. It's sparkly and it's cute, so it goes well with this. I decided after all that I didn't like that number 2 on the bottom pocket, so I've just punched out a slightly smaller circle from pattern paper, and I'm going to take my black biro pen and I'm just going to hand write a number 2. And I've stuck that using double-sided sticky tape on the outside of the page protector, and so I'm just going to thicken up that number 2 and that's going to be this page finished. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed the first processes from my December daily album. Keep your eyes peeled for more videos coming soon to this series, and I will see you very soon with the next video.